We've done a lot of things. So looking forward to it. One thing I want to start off with is the book that's just come out, 18 and Lost. Fantastic achievement. I want to ask about the name or the blurb on the back. Seth Godin is on there. So I want to ask, we can talk about the book and all that stuff, but I want to start with, there it is there. Perfect. So I want to start with.
We should have it close to my mate.
Yeah, for sure. I want to start with how did you get this guy on the back? What was your kind of process? What's the whole story behind this? Because it is quite cool to have him on the back there.
Yeah, it is very cool. Yeah, and very lucky. Very lucky. But it wasn't accidental, obviously, too. And I don't have a personal relationship with him. But for anyone who's not familiar with him, Seth Godin is very prominent as a thought leader in marketing, in education, in post-industrial kind of world and careers and work. And written 20 best-selling books, started a bunch of kind of cool companies. Has a very kind of clear and meaningful message. So that's who he is, if anyone hasn't heard of him. And and I guess we got it. I did a course at that organization that he co-founded. They co-founded a thing called the Alt MBA, and then this other organization, Akimbo, evolved around it, I believe. And it's very alternative education company. And I did a course there, and I did the course thinking I'd meet great people, and I knew that people like him were behind it. So I figured there's lots of relationships to actually be had with this organization beyond just learning some good stuff in the 1 week course. It's called the Emerging Leaders Program. If I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have met you.
Yeah.
I met Liam, who's a mutual friend of ours and collaborator, and that's how I met you. So there you go. And in the same way, I knew we were working on the book because I cared about education at the time going into it. And I was curious to see how they did things. So it was a learning opportunity for me in that sense, the model they did. And then I just knew that, they have so many people in their community that are useful. I knew that going in. So I was I always planned to do the course and then see what it was like and then add value to their organization where I could. And that was I hosted catch-up calls after, gave a lot of feedback, a lot of generous feedback, obviously stayed in touch with people there. And in the end, I had good contacts at the organization. And I explained to them, they knew about the book. And I explained to them the mission and why I thought, because it was in education, that someone like Seth's endorsement would go a long way, help us catalyze the book journey. Endorsement that doesn't really sell books necessarily. It's not people hear about that and then they come find the book. Not really. But it helps, the credibility helps a lot. And it was also really nice because we did it with a group of people.
Yeah.
But that was basically the process. I don't know if everyone's now going to go start doing a bunch of Akimbo courses now that I've said that. Maybe they will. But also just got very lucky. Because there's no incentive. Sorry, not no incentive, but no guarantee. And that's why I was very strategic about that, obviously. But you were being genuine along the way is integral. I just genuinely enjoyed, I got so much out of it. How I met you and everything.
Yeah.
Again, that was one of the beautiful things that came out of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a super interesting story. And I guess it's those things where you do one thing, it's that stuff you talk about with the doors, right? It's this kind of doing this course opens up opportunities that maybe you didn't expect or maybe you did expect when you first signed up, right?
Yeah, well, maybe. I suspected.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You can't really know.
No, definitely.
And that's why I think if I was just trying to do the whole thing, I know that guy's in that company or they know people and I'm only going to do it for that reason, then there's a bit of risk in that because if it doesn't come off, then whatever effort you put in, maybe unless you learn something, but if you get a lot out of the experiences you do and they help you kind of meet people who can move what you care about doing further. That's what I concentrate on because it's very holistic. You get a lot out of it, not just gunning for that one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I agree there. And I think that's cool. A good point about the genuineness of asking something like that and being involved. You joined the course because you wanted to get value and then these kind of things come out. It's almost not as the real reason why you joined, but it's an extra effect afterwards.
Yeah, I think the whole idea really is you want to be in rooms with great people. That's what I've learned. I rarely used to take up things like that when I was a bit younger. Things like that experience. And it's not always the right time. And the theme of this podcast, right? The name is pretty indicative. So for people who are early career maybe in the gap between finishing and getting into the workforce, if that's the average listener, there's this, it's very different to position maybe I'm in now where I have specific things that are my focus. education. I work on things that are relate to education and careers. And so I like, it's deliberate, but then it always makes sense to be in the good rooms with people who also care about that, and being able to like find more people who like agree and align with what you care about is always like useful. Like you just don't know in the 3 years later, 5 years later, 10, you don't know like when something will happen. Like a relationship is such a good investment. And I knew that I was going to get a lot of relationships out of it. That's what attracted me to it. And that was probably one of them was like, that's like a moonshot. That they Seth Godin, and very lucky he helped because I didn't speak to him. It was all through the community and stuff. But in general, just I got so many great relationships out of it. So I knew I was going to get that for myself, but also the concept of adding value. If I'm in there adding value, being genuine, they're going to get something out of me. And so it's mutual, and it's not like mutually exclusive. Like you can just reciprocate, like you can both, it should always be two ways. Like it's actually a really obvious idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
feel
get
like,
something out of it for yourself, but also make sure they get something out of it too. Leave everyone better off for having talked to you, and you'll get a lot back too. And that's really my approach to everything. And so far, it moves things faster, like things I care about. Yeah. It's interesting to think about.
No, that's cool. Because, I feel like, particularly with networking and stuff like that, I was thinking about this today, that sometimes when people are like, oh, you've got to go out there and network with people, you're trying to almost trick them to become friends with you so you can ask if they know, and then leave.
Right?
Yeah. You're trying to get up the ladder of who you know, and just so you can be like the winner at the end sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas when it comes from that kind of place, I think it's easy to spot almost when someone's trying to like use you just for like to get a favor and they're not offering anything. And it's much easier to be like friends with someone when they're helping you and you're helping each other. And it's just like much more natural that way.
It really is. It's not always easy too. Like networking, I heard a podcast, I was a podcast listening to the other week, and the guy had someone on and he's, oh, you're the gun at networking. And then the guy said, don't call me that. He goes, everyone hates that word. Right? I don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And like networking has connotations. Like different people will think different things when they hear the word networking.
Yeah.
But like stripping it back, the fundamentals of like people are the ultimate kind of resource is like at the core of it for me. People are the ultimate resource is what I strip it back to. And honestly, I'll just be honest. Like, so I've told you the story about that example and like my approach, always trying to be very add value and all that.
Yeah.
But that I definitely think I look at, if I'm on Twitter or something like that, or I hear a name, or I definitely think, oh damn, if I knew that person, I could be able to do this. Like I could get the message out better. I could get the book out better. Like it's hard to switch that off. It's actually pretty human. I'll be very honest that I definitely have those thoughts. But it's funny that then, you start moving towards, all right, start to be strategic about how could I get in touch with it? And then I'd have to create value for them.
Yeah.
And so you're always reminded. And I think as long as you are your actions, not your thoughts. So as long as you like come back to a healthy way of doing it. And again, like you said, the filter is, and the feedback loop is like, you almost don't have a choice because it's actually really hard to get things by being transactional. You want to call it that? Like transactional is like just exchange for goods. Like you don't need to love the local baker. They're just happy if you give them money, they're happy to give you bread. Like it's transactional. It doesn't have to be a good relationship, but it can be. So like when it's transactional, like people know, and it's like a Tinder, is it like a transaction thing? Is it a hookup? Is it an exchange of goods, or is it like genuine? And like you can't ask for too much too soon in a dating interaction. You got to break it down into steps. They're not ready to marry you or anything like when someone meets you straight away. So if you just cold suggest to people that you have this kind of deep relationship or whatever, and they get bombarded with requests like that, then you just get ignored. Whereas if you break it down into steps and meet people where they're at and say, all right, what would interest someone like this right now? Or what's something simple that they can say yes to? And that's opening the door. Then it's very much similar to that. It's so easy to leverage people, and leverage can be a dirty word too, like network. It's so easy to kind of get great advantage and resources out of people who you have a relationship with, and it doesn't have to be an exchange because you're friends.
Yeah.
And because like you mentioned my real estate experience, and even in real estate, because like any business,
Mm.
you get people happy to refer clients, gold, because you don't have to pay people necessarily to refer you clients.
Mm.
Like it's gold, word of mouth and referral partnerships. And just what I found doing that is like the people who really ended up giving me business were great friends.
Mm.
I became great friends with them. The ones who like weren't really that tight with, and we just didn't align, then it was like never as effective, because like you like someone, you also have trust with them.
Mm.
And trust is like really important when you're handing over someone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to be paid for it. I just look after them. If you make an introduction to someone, all right, just be respectful to that person, things like that. And yeah, so I just, things like that are really like, it's just what I learned through experience is like ultimately like the most productive relationships you have, you actually just end up getting along really well with them.
Mm.
That's what actually makes it sticky.
Yeah.
In the same way you can ask a friend for something you can't ask a stranger for, because you have a relationship.
Mm.
But then the online world kind of dilutes that a little bit. And sometimes we forget, but it all comes down to like genuine relationships and genuine relationship building.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. I think that's a great point, because yeah, you can't be. It's like what you were saying about the relationships. Like you're not going to ask someone like to get married on the first date. Whereas, and once you get along and you both like each other, then it's now we can start to ask more things and we can do more stuff together.
Yeah.
I think there's many like business and networking, whatever, parallels, I think, between dating and real life.
Yeah.
So that I think that was a great example.